struggling right back there. Stay there.
Well done. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, thank you very much, Dan. That camera's one for you opening.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, Michael's a few, yeah. My phone's out now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the final of the Australian National Billiards for 2022. This is an incredibly prestigious event. We've had a great standard of billiards throughout the week, and now we arrive at a final that features two very fine exponents of the game. I'd like to thank all the people that have been involved in the whole tournament. I'd especially like to thank the referees and the workers who've done so much behind the scenes. And in the final, we shall have Steve Mifsud from Victoria. And Michael Pearson from New South Wales. And we have swung for break. Steve Mifsud will be breaking with the yellow ball. If I could ask all the members of the audience to make sure their mobile phones are turned off, and we'll get it underway. The first session will go for 2.5 hours. At the completion of that, there'll be a break until 2:30, so it might be nearly a 2-hour break, but at 2:30 this afternoon, we'll resume for the second session and play through until 5 o'clock. Thank you very much. This 2. Two. Pop. 6. deficit, 20. Listen, 11. What do you go?
Hello everyone, welcome to the final of the Australian National Billiards Championship for 2022. Coming to you from the Yarraville Club in Melbourne, courtesy of CueballTV and our producer Dan Lynch. I'm David Pitt, and my apologies for starting this commentary late, but there was a little confusion about the start time of this game as to whether it started at 10 o'clock or 10:30. Anyway, it's underway, early stages of this match, and Steve Missard currently on a break of 58 has just established that pretty much that lead against Michael Pearson from New South Wales. Just overscrewed an in off the red there, so Steve's leading 108 to 41 against Michael. So Steve, a two-time winner of this champion, but a winner of multiple Australian snooker championships. He holds the equal record with Max Williams for the number of Australian national snooker championships with 8. He's also won a number of Australian Open championships. He's just played a good shot there to take a double balk and knock the red away from the pocket. Might have left Michael in with a chance. Both these players had a pretty straightforward path to the final. Steve, a very one-sided win by over 900 points against Rod Nelson of Victoria, with a couple of 200s and another century. Steve holds the highest break this week of 255. Michael Pearson also had, in the end, a comfortable win in his semi-final against Josh Burns from Tasmania. They were level in the early stages of the match, but Michael was dominant in the later stages and won that one pretty comfortably in the end. So clearly, these two have been the standout players this week with their performances, their scoring and their breaks, and so we come down to New South Wales versus Victoria final. The old interstate rivalry. Michael just missed a difficult screwing off it in the middle a moment ago, and he's now left Steve with pretty nice position, plenty of options here. Steve. He's made a pretty aggressive shot there to play the 6 shot at long range, but he's such a great cueist that he can do that with confidence. By doing that, he's left himself a fairly long range drop cannon, but with the amount of table time Steve had in the Pacific International Billiards and now in the Australian National over the last 8 days, he's had plenty of time to get used to the conditions here at Yarraville. We're playing on a beautiful set of tables here. All the tables we're using this week, Alcock tables. 6 of them are essentially antique tables. This one is a new table that was built about 10 years ago by Alcocks for an Australian national snooker. It's different to the others in the room in that it's got steel back cushions. You won't believe this, but I think Steve has just left that little cannon short. And it's left Michael with perfect opportunity at the top of the table. Just failed to get to the object white. The final is over 5 hours, 2.5 hour sessions. This session, which will finish at 12:30, and then the second session, which will be commence at 2:30 and finish at 5 o'clock. That's Australian Eastern Standard Time. Of course, those of you listening in around the world will have to make your own adjustments. So Steve's cue ball just covering the billiard spot there, which means that the red ball goes up to the pyramid spot. pot there from Michael. He's quite a long way away from these. Fortunately, he's just off the cushion, so that's actually an ideal position. Being so far away meant that he's had to hit that more firmly than he would have if he was closer. He spread the ball a bit, but he's got a thin enough here, which will take him back another drop going. I think he'll get this. Yes, no shot. Our referee for the final today is Paul Cosgrove, President of the Victorian Billiards and Snooker Association, very experienced referee. For some years Paul was on the WPBSA panel of referees and was refereed at the World Championships and other top-level snooker events. Michael just missing a difficult red along the top cushion there. Probably one that he would get most times, but just proved a bit difficult for him, and he's left the red in a hole for Steve. When Paul gets out of the white road, we'll be able to see what that's left Steve, and the answer is not an awful lot. He's just managed to tuck himself in behind the white ball there. He's got a little thin enough into the middle. No, he's playing safe.
Steve missed it. 5.
Okay, quite happy to concede. Leave the red for Michael, but just put his own ball on the ball cushion, leaving Michael the problem of extracting the white from that position. Under the rules, you're only allowed to play 15 consecutive hazards, which is either a pot or in and off, before you have to play a cannon. So, Steve, perhaps happy for Michael to just get those points off the red. But it could be that Michael will try and attack this white straight away, which he did. Played a screw pot there, trying to come up to leaving it off the white, which he did. But in doing so, he's missed the pot red. So a little bit of a scratchy start from both players in this match. But one of the reasons we play 5-hour matches in these big national finals is to allow the players to get into their stride and really show their best play, which you can't always do in a shorter match because scoreboard pressure tends to take over. In a 5-hour match, there's always there's a long time where you can still hit your straps and work your way back into the game. I saw that tremendously well in the final here 4 days ago of the Pacific International Billiards between Sourav Kothari of India and Rob Hall of England. Sourav led by over 600 points in a match up to 1,500. One of the best matches I've seen. Before Rob Hall came back with 177 and 391, hit the front. And then we had a number of lead changes before Sourav was able to just draw away in the last 200 or 300 points, ended up winning by a couple of hundred. But Steve needs a break here. Oh, he's had a great break there, getting that kiss. That white was heading into balk, I think. But the kiss into the red has meant that he's now got both balls out of balk. So a little rub of the green going Steve's way there. Just looking at this quite narrow short Jenny. Just play that at a beautiful pace. Yes, lovely shot. So just going back to Paul Cosgrove, in addition to being referee for the final and president of the VBSA, Paul's also the tournament director this, so he's wearing about 5 hats this week and doing an excellent job with all of them. It's been a festival of billiards and snooker down here with the Lance Panel Snooker Classic, followed by the Asia Pacific International Billiards Championship, and now the Australian National Billiards Championship. This is the culmination of 12 days of billiards and snooker here in Melbourne. We've been pretty blessed with quite good weather down here. It hasn't been warm at all, but it's, the rain has stayed away. We've had quite a bit of sunshine, so quite pleasant conditions for our visitors from overseas and interstate. And I hope that they've mostly enjoyed themselves down here. Steve just potting the red a few times here, trying to get the balls into a favourable position to bring the white back into play. Hasn't quite managed that yet, so he may find he's taking the red up to the centre spot again. Touch shot this just to try and land on a half ball from the white. In fact, he's got two options here, in off or a cannon, so it looks like he's taking the in off, which will push the white around off two cushions for a drop cannon. No, slow. Try not to predict the shots in advance, David, because you inevitably make a fool of yourself. So this is less than ideal. He's going to have to give these a bit of a smash, either off the red or the white. Try and send the first object ball around the table, back down here. He's going off the white. He needs to get a very full contact on the red. A thick off the white, very full, full on the red to try and just move that gently towards the left corner pocket as we look at it. And he's hit that thin and missed altogether. Not a good shot. That little break there of 40 or so gives Steve just over 100 advantage. Michael Pearson, a very experienced player. He's been on the Australian scene now for 15 or so years. Been in 2 Australian finals, perennial semi-finalist, won multiple New South Wales championships, and he's always at the pointy end of virtually any Australian tournament that he goes into. Just slid traps on the wrong side of the red there, but that's okay. He's got 2 balls in front of him, so there's something on. Yeah, played that well. Just a thin contact on the yellow to get the contact on the red to take it down to the corner pocket. So chance here for Michael now to just relax, get his cue arm going, get the pace of the table, and make a break to draw back closer to Steve. Bad miss by Michael there. He's, I think, just caught the yellow a little bit thin, which meant he didn't quite get the throw to the red. He's missed the red on the inside, and as a result of that thinness, he's lost the white. So right, he can play a good shot here. That's not too bad. I think he may have hit that too hard. It's coming out of balk, so big mistake there by Michael. Nice shot from Steve. They're just missing the red with the white, the object white, and putting it in a perfect drop cannon position. This festival of billiards and snooker that we've had down here at Yappel, with substantial prize money of around $25,000 for the 3 events. It wouldn't be possible without the support from our sponsors, CLNS, the VBSA is sponsoring the events, the Yarraville Club, the Victorian Government, and Billiards Australia also makes a contribution towards these events. And of course there's great support from the ABSC and the billiards and snooker community here in Melbourne for these events, and we thank everybody involved for their contribution. Tables here, of course, in beautiful condition, prepared by Alcox, Australia's oldest billiard table manufacturer. Been looking after the tables here at the Yarraville Club for nearly 100 years. And tables here fitted with the Strawn superfine cloth on the bed, and the Strawn 6811 30 ounce cloth on the cushions, which is felt to be a good combination. It was used in the World Championship in Melbourne in 2019. See, just a bit wide here, so he's just trying to swerve into that cannon to get a fuller contact on the red. Got under it a bit, but then the white came back and just kicked him up into a better position, but not a good position. So he's just going to play a cannon off the top cushion here. Oh, he's played a beautiful shot there. To just contact the red thinly, leaving a pot. Lovely shot that. The ordinary player would just be concentrating to hit the red full there to make sure they got the cannon, which would then leave them a shot with the red heading towards balk. But Steve, very good player that he is, just took the chance on missing to play the thin cannon, which led to better position. So 31 to go here for Steve. Just a slow pot here to leave another cannon from white to red. And just strong right hand side to throw the white up into a good contact with the red, which he's got. Sorry, the yellow up. Now he's got the balls in beautiful top of the table position. He's really a top of the table specialist. Steve, his all-round game is very strong, but his great strength at billiards is the ability to make big breaks at the top. And 3 years ago in 2019, he made some extraordinary strides in his game. He had previously had one 400 break in his career back in 2008 at the Australian Championship at the Brunswick Club. But in 2019 he broke that. He broke that personal best 3 times with 2 breaks of big 400s in the Victorian Championship and then a 575 break here at Yarraville in the Australian Championship. An extraordinary match against Todd Hayward, in which he earlier made a 330. So in a match of only 90 minutes or 2 hours, he's made a 300 and a 500. Great billiards. Sadly for Steve, he didn't get his name in the record books with that break, because the next day Matthew Bolton, the great West Australian champion, who's won 17 Australian championships, came out and knocked him off with a 584. So when you look at the list of record winners and the runners-up and the high breaks, Steve's name doesn't appear there, which is a bit of a shame, as he's only the 3rd player to make a 500 break in the Australian National Billiards Championship. The other 2 being Western Australians, the great Bob Marshall, the 4-time world amateur champion, and many would say the greatest amateur player ever, and of course Matthew Bolton, who's both those players made multiple 500s, and in fact 600s, 700s, and in the case of Matthew Bolton, the Australian record 809 break, which he made on this table 5 or so years ago in the Australian Championship final. Sorry, not in the final, he made it in the semi-final. So he's got that perfect postman's knock position. He used to play postman's knock more or less exclusively. His 409 at the Brunswick Club was a beautiful postman's knock break. The white just stayed on that top cushion for the vast majority of the break, but in recent years he's been playing a lot more. He switched really to floating white, which is the modern trend, accelerated by the balk line rule, and he's really worked hard at his game and studying the different positions there, and big breaks are flowing as a result of that. 77 to go for Steve. His lead out now to 170. Didn't quite get the right angle there on that previous shot, so he's just potted the red off 2 cushions and come around, using his great cueing to get into position for his soft cannon. The yellow double kissing into the white, hence the name postman's knock, given to this technique. You can hear the click click of the double kiss. There's no balk line crossing being used in this championship. Our previous event, the Pacific International Billiards, being a WBL World Billiards Limited ranking event, was played under the balk line rule, which means that the players have to cross the balk line between 80 and 100 points every point. So what that means is that players are always looking to knock the white away from the top cushion. Steve doesn't need to worry about that, he can just leave it there. So 98 to go. The first 100 now of the final to Steve, so just opening up a nice lead there. Just under 200 now with this century break. Just having to look to see where the object white is in relation to the centre of the table. There's a nameplate at either end of the table, which just helps the players to locate the white. exactly.
Oh, fraction of one red.
And depending where it is, you know, he might go a little bit higher, a little bit lower on the red. It's finished a bit straight on the red there, so he's just potted it to leave a what's called a cross loser enough, taking the red up to the centre pocket. He'll pot that and then come back down.
Seven. Nine. $152.
So a lovely little sequence of a postman's knock there by Steve, taking his break to 134. He's taken them away from postman's knock now with that cannon, but a lovely little run through to push the white back right next to the spot. He should be able to return to the top of the table fairly soon. Just having a bit of a look. He'd like to pot the red, but it's not really on from there. He's just going to push it up to the middle of the table. That's less than ideal. I mean, these players shouldn't be missing long losers, but there is an element of risk in this shot. Two risks. The first one is of missing, but there's also the risk of the red going into an unfavourable position, perhaps on the side cushion or perhaps a bit wide. He's taken that out of the equation by playing that slowly, putting it on the pyramid spot. Very sound billiards, that. A lot of players will try and flog the red around off two or three cushions to the middle pocket. But Steve just put in on the pyramid spot, or the pankaj spot as we sometimes call it. Pankaj Advani, the great Indian world champion, is well known for his love of putting the ball near the pyramid spot. That's a technique advocated by Walter Lindrum, so there can't be a lot wrong with it. So 165 to go for Steve, and I'm joined in commentary now by the doyen of Australian billiards commentators, Peter Tankard. Hello, Peter. How are you?
Hi Dave, good morning, how are you?
I'm excellent.
I'm straight back to top, I see.
Yes, another little soft shot there by Steve, bringing them back. 170 to go, so he's...
73.
Looking pretty ominous even at this early stage, isn't it?
75.
Dave, I think everybody in the tournament predicted that Steve would be very hard to beat this week.
83.
I don't think there was anybody who would have disagreed with that, Peter. It's interesting, you know, Steve, like most people down here, didn't really get to play an awful lot during the COVID lockdowns and so forth, although he does have a table at home. He really, lost interest in practicing when there were no events to play in, so he really, didn't play much billiards at all during the lockdowns. He was practicing a bit of snooker every now and then. But yes, in the last 3 or 4 months now, he started to play more billiards. Started playing pennant billiards for his my team, Kooyong, about 8 weeks ago. Quite scratchily, it has to be said. It took him 2 or 3 weeks before he made a 100 break in pennant, and he hasn't made a big break in the pennant competition.
Is he a bit too straight on this? Is this what he's
I
concerned
think the
about?
red's a bit straight, yeah, and I think he's also concerned.
You could think about the 369.
Well, maybe, but the white might be a bit close to the spot for that. Yeah, it should be okay though. No, that's okay. That's plenty of space. So, yep.
So that's what he's done.
Just playing the 9, what 9 shot as it's called, or the 369. She's from New South Wales. So 202. What a beautiful break this has been. That's Steve's 7th double century of the tournament, which is really quite a remarkable effort. If you take Matthew Bolton, who is just a break building machine, out of the equation, this is by far the best effort by any other player. I had a look at the records last night, and in the last 20 or so years, the closest of that is 4 double centuries by Steve back in 2008. So he's really, without making the big breaks, the huge breaks that he's capable of, the 3, 4, 500s, he's shown remarkable consistency this week in his break building to build the 7 breaks over 200 with a high of 255. Great billiards.
I think the challenge for these big breaks is concentration. We know he's capable of making 500. He did it here in 2018 against Todd Hayward, and 575, I think, wasn't it?
That's right. I was talking about that just before.
Yep, and so we know he's capable of it. The question is, does he have the concentration to keep going? The other interesting player in this tournament was Josh Burns, who made so many 50 breaks, but regularly failed to go on with it. I don't know whether that was a concentration issue, or maybe not taking enough chances, or taking too many chances without having watched his matches, except being on the receiving end of one. It'd be hard to say what was going on there, but Josh has certainly been a surprise package of this tournament.
Didn't quite say a surprise package, Peter. Josh's potential has been well known for a few years now. He's only young. Yes. He's in his early 20s. He comes from down in Tasmania, and really hasn't played in an awful lot of Australian championships. He's only played in probably 4 or 5, but he really sprang to notice at the World Championship in 2019 at the RACV club, where he topped his group in the World event, which is a fantastic achievement.
Did he have Ryan Mears in his group?
Yes,
in that?
he knocked off the former world number 6 Ryan Mears in that group, and other good players. There were no weak groups in that
Sure,
in that
it's all
event. There was only strong groups and
Yep.
very strong groups, and
including a group with David Corsier and Pankaj Advani.
yeah, well, that was quite strong, as I found out.
That was reasonably
because
strong,
I was in
wasn't it?
I was in the group. Yeah.
Oh, you were in the group. That's right. So you were. So you were. It was a very strong group in that case.
No, yeah. Well, I didn't add to the group.
Corsier, Advani, and Pitt, all in the one group.
And Don Richter, so it was a pretty strong group. Just having a bit of a pause here now. Steve with a lovely break, 234 unfinished. Now leads 400 to 74. So things are looking a bit ominous for Michael Pearson, who won't have fond recollections of his previous appearances in national. Yeah, he came up against Matthew Bolton. At least one of those, I think, probably in
Two
both,
of those.
in both of those finals. And as Matthew can do to anybody in a final, and he's done it to Steve Mifsud and Joe Manici and others, Michael got absolutely mashed by Steve. There's no other word for it. Sorry, mashed by Matthew. I mean, in those two finals, Matthew's just poured on the brakes, and it's just impossible if you're sitting in your chair while a guy makes a 300 followed by a 400, and then you expect it to come out after 40 minutes or so, and you know, you're stone cold. You've been sitting in your seat. It's almost impossible to hit back with big breaks, and unless you've had the experience of sitting out. And for Michael, because he's always so competitive in all his matches, he's winning all the time up in New South Wales. The Nationals, he's breathing through his round robin groups and quarters and semis. It's a novel experience for him to suddenly just be sitting down all the time.
Yes. I noticed in one of those losses to Matt, he lost so badly that he had to actually give up his New South Wales state citizenship. He's listed in the record books as being Michael Pearson, Western Australia. That's how bad the loss was.
Perhaps you want to put that up? Yeah. So Dan Lynch, our producer here, who does an amazing job at these events, is just putting something very interesting up on the screen. This is I was down at the Allcox factory last Friday, and the factory manager there, Tim Lowe, showed me this cube, which came into Allcox with a table that they bought recently. Really a table that nobody wanted, but they were happy to take it on and add it to their stock. Anyway, in this was this cue, which, as you can read, the PJB special as used by the Australian Amateur Champion 1929. I did a little bit of research on the spot and discovered that the 1929 Australian Amateur Billiards Champion was A.H. Herndon of South Australia. And he was in fact the first South Australian to win the Australian Championship. Played in 1929 at Allcox Billiard Parlour in Sturt Street, South Melbourne. Allcox, whenever there was big matches in Melbourne, hosted them firstly in their Elizabeth Street match room, and then later on in the city, and then later on in their Sturt Street.
That's come up short there.
In their Sturt Street. Yes, this is the first difficulty that Steve's had in this game. Leaving himself a long Jenny. He's naturally a player of his class. Long Jennies present no problems at all. He's played that too wide. I've only ever seen Steve miss about 2 long Jennies in his career. So 237, I think, that break by Steve. Beautiful break. Pet peeve of mine when the referees immediately hit the button and the break goes away before you've had a chance to look at it. But I think it was 237. He was on 234 when we had that little break, and then he went in off the red, and that was the end of it. So lead of over over 300 now for Steve. I mean, Michael needs a big break to get back into the match, and he's not going to be getting it from this
No,
league.
it's not. It's
It's
not.
not,
Here. All three balls on the rail.
There's a
There's a
good
pot
shot.
upper.
There's a thin. He's played safe.
He's played safe. Yep.
But he hasn't done it very well.
No, he's left a half ball
He's
in off
left
the
that
white.
short. Yeah.
Well,
But-
he's as cold as ice coming into it, of course, isn't he?
Okay. Just getting back to that cue we were showing before, PJB, it turns out, is PJ Brady, the well-known Adelaide billiard table manufacturer. And
Oh, thin.
it's just might have been a little bit wide, but perhaps he was trying to make sure he brought the white around the angles there by getting it a bit thin, but didn't quite work out. I don't think Michael has shot. It's no snack though. I think this is a.
Forcer.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? But
Could get the pace on the yellow right.
he's done
1, 2, 3
okay.
lengths.
Yeah, he's done okay.
Maybe there or thereabouts.
So the PJB special cue is of quite strong historical significance, and Alcock's, in their wisdom, have decided to donate that cue to the South Australian Billiards and Snooker Association, who will add it to their memorabilia collection, which they display at their great
venue.
centre, the venue at the West Adelaide Football Club over there in Adelaide. So, nice gesture by George Taylor and Alcock.
It's a lovely, generous gesture. So Michael's just essentially bashing the balls around, hoping that something comes up. He really hasn't had an easy leave yet, and still doesn't have one. So he's in a phase of play that David Corsier calls chasing the balls about.
R.M. Gayer calls it scatter phase.
Scatter phase.
Yeah, that's a good
Yes,
shot.
with
That was a
check
good shot. That
Just
was no
leaves it out.
snack. That has just gone.
That's okay. I think you can get there. You can roll that over and get the red near the other corner pocket, I think. Hard to tell. You'll definitely be
Well,
hitting
I think it's
the
wide.
right side of the
I think-
white as we
I
look at
think, I think it's wide. Yep.
Yeah, he had to
You have to
stumble
screw it
around.
there.
Okay, this isn't terrible. He's got a red pot and yellow getting nearish to the spot.
Very strong potter, Michael.
Well, both of these guys are strong potters. You look at them over the table, they'd be the two most deliberate cueists in the field.
Nice shot from Michael there, because he's paced it perfectly. Nice shot. I would describe Michael as a very strong potter and Steve as an elite potter.
Yes. Michael's also a scratch golfer.
Interesting. That's very good. Very good indeed.
Doesn't play much these days.
What's his club up in Sydney?
Fox Hills, I think.
Fox Hills, okay.
He's played for a few. But he was playing pennant golf for a while.
Okay. Does Fox Hills have a billiard table, Michael? Most of the other
Oh,
golf
Peter.
clubs in Peter, most of the other clubs in Sydney seem to have billiard tables.
If it did have one, Michael would be the champion. But no, I don't to you that some of our golf clubs have billiard tables, but it seems incredibly strange to me that the Anglican churches in Victoria had billiard tables. There was a church billiards league.
He's just overhit that, Michael. So I mean, this is a bread and butter shot for him. He's a beautiful forcing player, but he's sending the ball up. Even as I speak, he's just hasn't quite given it enough. The difficulty with that shot wasn't getting it so much as the position of the red. You're never really sure when it's going to finish. And in fact, where it did finish, wasn't very good at all for him
not
to
for
play
long.
from hand. Yeah. So,
but it's pretty good for Steve.
yes, indeed it is, yeah. So a little opportunity going begging. Michael just crawled back under 300 behind there with that small contribution. But
Now, I have a quiz question.
Mhm.
I have a quiz question. David, as an established billiards historian, you're not allowed to answer, but you are allowed to write down the answer. But for the viewers, this is the Australian National Championship and Australian National Championships.
I can think of one.
Fine. Well, don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. My bet is you will know.
So I won't give this away, but I will give a hint. It's
No.
No hints?
Let's see.
No hints?
Let's see what
Oh,
people
what
say.
people
No hints. No
Yeah.
hints. No hints. If you are online, Gary, sorry not to see you here this year. You've been a regular visitor to Australia with your collection of footwear, socks in particular. Gary's well known for trying to put off his opponent by having the brightest socks in the game. With some success, I must say. 2 years perhaps, Joe Manici not playing at his best and didn't play at his best in this tournament. He looked, before I say this, let me say if there was a Joe Manici fan club, I would probably be the secretary, and it's a very, very large club indeed. But Joe looked quite underdone in terms of preparation coming into this tournament. He lost a round robin match to Josh Burns.
Josh Burns, yeah.
Pretty comprehensively, and then lost to Victorian State Champion John Schenk in a match that perhaps in other years he might have been expected to win, and didn't even make his trademark last-minute comeback, which has broken so many hearts in the past.
Nice shot that by Michael, stunning off into the ball pocket.
Still
And,
chasing them though, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not too bad. That's good. He just needs to get this, back into the middle of the table, up towards Bork. Yeah, that's a good shot.
When Michael starts to play well,
Mm.
you'll see a little idiosyncrasy come into his game. It's the way he drops onto the cue. He drops really quickly onto the cue when he's playing well and fast. When he starts seeing them, it's like it's like gravity takes over, and he just almost falls onto the cue really quickly. He's not doing that yet. He'll start to do it if he gets them close at top.
Just want to move across so you can see this.
Okay, no one's accepted my challenge yet, Titles. And that's, of course, of the players that have entered.
Yeah, I think that's kind of
That's a given, I think.
That's a given. So a good opportunity here for Michael. He played a good shot to get in, and now he's quickly got the balls down to the top. So let's see what he can do.
The question, Darren Taylor, is can you name a player who's never lost a match at the Australian National Billiards? Of those players who have entered, of course. This is actually very comfortable viewing time in New Zealand. that yellow a little too thin. May have a cover now. Lost him.
Less than ideal
Lost
here.
him. Lost him.
He's right in the jaws of the pocket there, so
So the
the
screwback's
screwback's
uncomfortable.
very uncomfortable. He really hasn't got a lot of... maybe he's playing a cannon across...
Screw across
screw
cannon.
across cannon.
There we
Yeah.
go.
No,
No.
he cued that beautifully. That
He
wasn't an
has.
easy shot at all.
No, it wasn't.
Uh,
Couldn't
that-
get it.
yeah.
Maybe he could have got the centre ball, but
that was a good shot. Not much room for backswing
No.
there. So it's very good shot.
so another in off here to bring it out. And
Nice, yeah. Nice wide pocket brasses on this table and wide rails. So
yes,
that shot would have been a lot more difficult, perhaps, if there were raised pocket brasses on the table, which was the style in the 19th century. It was only at the
Yes.
at the end of the 19th century that the flush pocket brasses
Ooh.
were invented.
chances.
Nothing doing. So imagine Michael Pearson
No.
missing a long loser. You'd see that about once a week, I would
Yes.
suggest, in normal conditions.
Yes,
But not only has he missed, he's absolutely left them beautifully placed. Steve
Look
couldn't have asked for
Look
anything
at
better.
this.
He's just pushed the object right down, right next to the spot, perfectly in the centre of the table. And he's got the choice here of a pot on and off. He probably just popped this slowly. No, that's an unusual shot. Just pop this down here and he's off again.
so we've got one suggestion here. Matthew Bolton, incorrect. Matthew's had a tremendous winning run, and is still on track. Has enough time, if he's got enough interest, to challenge Bob Marshall's all-time record. I think 17 Matthew has now.
I think Matthew's got 7 or 18 and Bob Marshall's
17
got
or
21. So
21,
yeah,
yeah,
he's,
so he's still-
Matthew's still only in his 40s, so he's still got
Plenty of time.
plenty of
Marshall's
time.
still winning in his 70s.
yeah, correct.
So,
yeah.
so plenty of time for Matthew to do
Mm,
that if he's
mm.
got the desire.
Mm.
But no, Matthew didn't always win.
No,
he
Matthew
started
first-
off as a young player,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, first played in the Australian Championship age 16 or 17, and
yeah,
he didn't win that. And then after he won his first one, they were aged about 19. Then the next couple, he didn't win either. He
Yeah.
got knocked out in the quarters or semi. So while his record is absolutely remarkable, it's not perfect.
yes. Well, we think one day it might be the best record ever, but no, it wasn't perfect.
So at the moment, Matthew taking a break from the game, which is why he isn't here this year. Matthew's always been one to acknowledge that
That's an interesting shot. I would have thought he would have gone the pipe.
I think it's just a bit,
Two straight.
a bit too far towards baulk, and he didn't quite have the angle to run through it towards the top. So yeah, he's missed that. That was
Pity with the red over with the
white
ball in
perfect
position.
Yeah. But anyway, it's gone. And Michael's got
A finish
No.
half ball.
it's a bit wide.
Playing with check.
Yeah, good shot. Just left it a bit short.
That'll be okay.
So, nice answer there. Horace Lindrum.
That would be a good answer.
That would be a great answer, but Horace Lindrum never played in this tournament because he turned professional very young, age 16 or so.
Yes.
Horace Lindrum was a fantastic billiards player.
Thousand breaker.
He made over a dozen thousand breaks in his career. He was the first player in the 1930s to make 1,000 break under the then new baulk line rule. and he had, I can tell because I've seen him do it myself, full mastery of nursery cannons, top of the table, all aspects of the game. I was in the know, rate Horace Lindrum in the top 10 billiard players of all time, and certainly his 1,000 breaks in competition would lend credence to that. There's not too many people who've made 1,000 breaks in competition.
No. Now, when did the game? These days, of course, we have professionals and amateurs playing side by side in billiards. When do we date that change from?
The change to it being open.
Yes.
Yeah, it came in the late in the 1980s, I think. So early 1980s.
With the EBOS series?
Well, there was
Or
actually
was it a change in rules?
no. It was the change was actually dictated, quite ironically and typically, the change was dictated by the British government. The British government, the Sports Council. He's lost it.
Dearie me.
He made a bit of a hash of that, regardless of the white going in. So now he's stretching around a bit, Michael. Got that red into
The red
balk,
into balk,
which was good. So yes, the Sports Council dictated that sports could no longer have a professional and amateur distinction. Billiards, the Billiards and Snooker Control Council, which was then running the game, had no choice but to go along with that ruling, and very rapidly that change took effect all around the world. So once again, the rest of the world has to kowtow to whatever England wants.
Well, I mean, the thing is, many of the sports that we play were invented in England. It's hard to think of too many sports that are played internationally that were invented in France or Germany or Italy. But you look at golf and tennis and most of the major sports played today, football, were invented in the UK. Not snooker though. Billiards was, but not snooker.
You're not quite right about golf being invented in England there,
Well,
Peter. It was
Scotland's-
actually golf was originally played by the Dutch, who introduced it, and then later on Scotland, claims to be the home of golf, but there's evidence that it was actually in Holland that the game started. Most of the history of these games is completely, good
British.
shut up, Michael. No, the history is clouded in the mists of time because
Yes.
there's no record of people playing these games. They can have been
Well, put it this way,
played
David,
for hundreds of years before they're
Yes.
codified and so
Sure.
forth, so nobody really knows how they started.
the Royal and Ancient of Amsterdam doesn't have a lot of members.
There probably is a royal and ancient. It's a monarchy.
Well, I don't know. I mean-
it's a monarchy in the Netherlands, so who says that they don't have a royal and ancient?
They could do.
Who knows? Oh, what have we got?
So we've got a few suggestions here. Jim Long, it's a long shot. Okay.
No,
Darren. Forever the puns.
Yeah, you've got it. So I think between us so far, Peter and I have come up with two names. Oh, Michael again has made a hash of it, attempted double balk. I think he's left that red out of balk.
If he has.
No,
Well, no, I don't think so.
no.
Steve would be down and
clearly,
playing it already.
Steve would
Just
be playing. Must be
squeaked in.
just squeaked over the line, yeah. Okay, so not too bad.
So he's just going to separate them here and flick them to. Oh, what was that?
Well, possibly an attempted double in the corner. That's a
No, he didn't play that.
very good safety, which turned out to be a huge bonus because the white dropped in. For an ordinary player, that would have been quite dangerous, that shot that Steve played, because it would have been quite easy to over or underhit it, leaving Michael
Yes.
an in off the red. But a player of Steve's
Are
class
you-
can confidently know he's going to leave that.
Are you
that
telling
ball
me
in the
that,
jaws.
that you think he played for the double in the corner?
No, I think he played to put the to put
Oh, that'll
the
do.
to put the
the
object
what?
ball in the corner, and the fact that it went into the pocket was a bonus.
Okay.
Yeah. Good cannon out of the double balk by Michael there, coming off the side cushion.
Needs another.
Needs another good one. Unfortunately, the red's a bit far off the cushion for him. Hasn't got that right.
Left it a bit skinny. He could play off the side cushion. Or we could just try and pot him.
He can play it off the side, yeah.
White's gone uncomfortable.
This little sequence that we're seeing here, quite scratchy sequence, actually works in Michael's favour, I think. It just gives him some more table time. It stops Steve's flow to an extent. And if he can come the better out of this safety exchange, then well and good. So Steve now with the long journey.
So I've been told, not for the first time this week, that I've been very rude. In this case, I've forgotten bocce. We could have said petanque as well, and a few others, but yeah.
So Darren Taylor has suggested Jim Long for our quiz question. Yes, Jim Long was a great player, won 6 Australian championships, Darren, but he was on the end of quite a few hidings from both Bob
Tom
Marshall
Cleary.
and Tom Cleary, yeah. Jim, of course, runner-up in the World Amateur in 1960 to Herbert Beetham of England.
So did Tom...
Together, and yeah, no, they were good mates. Friendly rivals, I think is the best way to describe that.
Yes.
And Tom talks about that in his memoirs, which you can find on the EABA website, which is still up there. And it's a lovely memoir, very interesting, written by Tom Cleary, talking about his travels around the world, travelling with Walter Lindrum during the war, giving exhibitions. He mentions Pat Brady in there, who we were talking about earlier with the PJBQ. Tom Cleary played at Buckingham Palace with Jim Long
really?
when he went to England for the 1951 World Championship. They were asked to appear at Buckingham Palace by the King, the then
With
King.
Walter?
No, Walter played at Buckingham Palace in in the early 1930s. And this is about 20 years later when Jim and Tom were there. Walter Lindrum, of course, famously from his visit to Buckingham Palace, was given a set of cufflinks by the King, which he wore every day for the rest of his life, it is said.
Just got over the top of
Oh,
that.
that was a
But
nice
thank you so
kiss.
much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very kind.
So a little left-hand side off the cushion, leave the red over the bag, promote the white.
I have covered the spot here. He's just having a look.
Well, and he has to make his own mind up about this too. He can't check with the ref.
The ref doesn't know. The ref can't know until he goes to spot it.
spot it.
Yeah. In fact, it's amazing how often it does go on the spot. You look at the spot and you think, oh no, that won't go, and then after you play the shot, it does go.
Well, he's played position where he would have had red pot off the pyramid spot anyway. So 2 little dinky cannons here, left-hand side required. So he's elevated the cue to exaggerate that.
Just to get past the red, and we can't quite see what's happening here.
Can we switch camera angles, Dan?
It's all right now. It's okay.
It's all right. We've switched ref angles instead. So really focusing on getting the white there is the same problem again. Definitely looks occupied this time. We'll tell from Steve's shot. Maybe questionable. Paul managed to squeeze it on there a second ago.
Well, Peter, in answer to your quiz question, I have now got 3 players who I reckon will
Don't.
ever get this one.
Don't.
No, okay.
Everybody's got access to the same records. We're just looking on the list anyway. One of them I know for sure. The others are conjectural because what we're looking at is a list of champions and runners-up. Now, if somebody didn't make a final, then they may have lost an earlier round, and it would be hard to definitively say. I definitely know one.
I'm fairly confident of the other 2, and I'll give my reasons when we come to it. Okay. Alison Purdon online has suggested Ted Pickett. Now, Ted Pickett was a very good player. He was.
That's a red pot that Steve would miss once a month. Must be that time in this month.
Amazing. Just a fairly straightforward screwback red. He's rattled it in the jaws.
Yep, seemed to rush it a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is the first reasonable opening Michael's had for a while. Oh, Mike, not.
Okay.
Deary me, he's flirting with that.
So Ted Pickett from Tasmania. I actually played Ted Pickett. He was the Australian snooker champion in the mid-1950s, I think 1955 or 1956. And he was a nice, lovely guy and a good, very good snooker player, obviously, and an Australian champion, a very good billiard player. He never won an Australian billiards, although he was, I think, runner-up in that. But lovely memory. I played Ted in 1976 in the Sim Crocker Shield, now the Andrews Atkins Shield. So
if he was runner-up, I guess that eliminates him from our...
Yeah, well, he never won it, so...
Yeah.
Check
Check side needed. Grant's one of the top 10 ranked players in the nation who are not here at this tournament. Be fair to say that COVID hasn't done the billiards community a lot of favours. There's a lot of people who've been reluctant to travel. And in fact, I think we've only got 4 of the top 10 players, including these 2, of course, according to the previous rankings at this tournament.
Nice shot there by Michael. Well, controlled screw. Yes, it has made a definite slow start back billiards with so many of the top players missing, but it's great that we're back here and playing. We're seeing a very good standard of billiards.
Oh, look, these guys would have been worthy finalists in the best year. So there's nothing wrong with the quality. In fact, what's amazing when you look through the records is how much the quality of billiards, amateur billiards, has improved in recent years, right up to this day. The standards keep increasing. I think in recent years, probably because we've had visits from the overseas players who've helped us all to understand a little bit better what's possible. We've had some great international fields in Australia in the last several years.
No, we've just been joined online by Jason Colebrook, the chairman of WBL. Welcome, Jason.
Good morning, boss.
So we're just still in the early stages of this match, just approaching the end of the first hour of a 5-hour final, but already Steve Mistert has established a commanding lead with an early break of 237, his 7th 200 of the championship. As I mentioned earlier, looking through the records last night, that's taking Matthew Bolton out of the equation. That's by far the best performance by anyone in the last 20 so years. The next best being, nice shot there, Michael. The next best being 4 centuries by Steve himself in 2008. So he's really played some very, very consistent 200 break class billiards this week without
Just got away from him a little there.
Without really making a big one. The best this week is 255 by Steve. And he's the only player to make it 200.
Little controlled, stunny, screwy, check-sidey thing here. Just doesn't want the red to get too far up table.
Yeah, good shot that.
Yep.
It wasn't no snack.
No. So he might have to manipulate this, spot it a little wider, play it with running side. If he wants to get to this side, just makes it, just gets past the yellow. So that's a great shot there. So now he does have a recovery cannon position. Wants to hit, as we're looking at it, the right side of the yellow. Does just that and herds the balls together in doing so. Thin, clippy little cannon, push the red over the corner pocket. Not too bad, caught a bit more of the red than he wanted, but very good. Does anyone know the snooker score on the table? Say what?
Oh, on table 8. The snooker score on table 8. No, I can't. Is somebody playing on table 8? And the answer is to that question is no, but Jamie...
But I because it's such an off-the-wall question, I'm prepared to walk out and find out for you. So I'll be back in a moment.
So just in response to another question, Jamie M has asked online why are we playing a final on a Tuesday. Jamie, the answer to that is that we're at the end of a festival of billiards and snooker down here. 12 or so days, starting with the Lance Panel Classic, which was run over a long weekend down here in Melbourne, followed by the Pacific International Billiards, and now the over 4 days, and now the Australian National Billiards over another 4 days. So based out is around Queen's birthday long weekend. We're now at the end of that with the National Billiards final.
Okay, there's no one playing on table 8. I've been sold a pup here. I just walked out there, had a look, and there is table 8's unoccupied.
Oh, bad luck, Michael. He's just got a little smother there.
It's on with a masse, and it's not a tough masse because he's got the cushion to wear. Oh, sorry, it's a very tough masse. He's got more of a cover than I thought. Now that's tough.
That is tough. Now we know Peter Gilchrist would just come off the side cushion and clip the yellow thin to
Yes, he
to
would.
get this cannon. He would have no compunctions in doing that. But certainly for Michael, that really wasn't an option for him at the present state of the game. So
Yep.
he's just played safe, done so well.
Discretion
Pity
the
there
better
because
part of valor there.
for the first time in the game there, Michael got in and was at the top of the table.
So, will Steve play this cannon or play safe? It's a big ball, that yellow. It's just off the cushion. Well, it looks like he's going at the loser.
Screwing off, yeah. And he hit that
That's
beautifully.
a beautiful
Yeah,
shot.
yeah.
Gee, that's a good shot.
Especially a good shot if the red stays out of block. I don't think it has, but it doesn't matter because he's got a quite straightforward cannon off the side cushion here. Just needs to get a good contact on the red, good full contact on the red here.
You stay straight forward. If this isn't his home table, the red's in the middle of the table. See, it's missable.
Oh, eminently missable. Yeah, he got a nice full contact. He's just hit it too hard.
Yeah, pace was good. Anything but straight was perfect there. Can he screw this in with check?
Well, he can. Just perhaps the only question is whether the red's going to come out of balk. Oh yes, he's played that beautifully. It's not right. Red's gone dead, but gee, I'm surprised to see him playing this.
What a great
That
effort.
was an audacious shot.
What a great effort.
That's a
Yes,
shot
that
of,
was in your face.
that's a shot of someone who's 300 in front.
Yeah, exactly. That was a no respect at all shot.
Interesting point that Grant Medley has just made here, that the access to the technology that we've got here is a great way for people watching to learn the game. And I was just thinking about that. Oh, that's an unlucky break for Michael. He's just overhit that a fraction.
Yes.
The red caught the draw and just squirted up the side cushion, completely dead. So yeah, the other jaw would have been fine. Would have squirted back.
Well,
If the red had gone in, he would have been fine.
He needs to make the reply to Steve's shot and try the in off in the opposite middle pocket.
I think he'll try the cannon here. He's had
No, I
quite
was
a good
kidding.
go. Yeah, a little bit unlucky there, Michael. A couple of the rubs of the green have just gone against him.
The cannon's always the easiest shot because you've actually got about 6.5 inches to work with, because you can hit either side of the red ball. So in fact, it's bigger than a pocket.
6 3/16 inches to be precise. Peter. The ball's being 2 1/16 inch or 52.5 mils wide. So yeah, scoring a cannon is like shooting into a 6 1/4 inch pocket. But that point that Grant made about the technology, nice shots there. I think it's probably fair to say that for a young player like Josh Burns, he's really the first of the YouTube billiards generation. He's had the opportunity to learn his billiards from watching YouTube and watching online in a way that was really not available to anyone probably under 30.
Well, Josh...
Sorry, any people over 30. So,
Yes.
yeah.
As you know, Josh is mostly self-taught. Books, videos, and a table out in the shed out in the backyard, which is unheated, on the coast in northern Tasmania. You can imagine the winds whipping across the Bass Strait, and there's Josh out there practicing billiards. That's dedication. He's also a sponge for information when he does get with some of the top players. Seems to have largely lost, not completely lost, that stutter in his cue action.
Yes, no, his cueing looks pretty smooth nearly all the time now. There's occasionally
Under pressure, it comes back in on screw shots, especially.
Yeah.
There'll be a kind of a double pump of the arm, but strangely enough, even when it was more pronounced, it didn't seem to throw off his straight cueing. He was always cueing straight. It was just impossible to watch. It was. In a delicious piece of irony, Josh beat Joe Manici in the round robins during this tournament, and we actually organised Joe to coach Josh up in Sydney for a few days a few years ago. So the apprentice surpassed the master in this case. Joe will be back, bigger and better than ever, but he looks a little rusty at the moment. Of course, everybody's had a different COVID journey in the last couple of years, and Joe's a player that thrives on regular competition, both billiards and snooker, and he really hasn't had much opportunity to do that. Not one so much for a dedicated solo practice.
Oh. What did this done? No, I was wrong. Just finishing straight. Just content to score off the red here.
Yep, it'll be up to the middle pocket, middle spot after
Middle
this.
spot again.
Eventually he'll need an angle to move that white ball.
It's pretty close to the cushion. It's just off the cushion, but yeah, he'll be working out a way to get down onto that.
Cross loser. If he wants to hit this a little harder, he could get the red out into the middle of the table and attack the white that way, or do it in 2 steps. Looks like he set it for another red pot. Probably just to roll through to the half ball line. No, I'm wrong. Down to the spot.
53.
Wonder what the hazard count is now. Come up a little short here, so he's going to play with check side, which is in fact going to push the red ball away from the white ball onto the other side of the table. No, he's played it thin. What a clever shot. Still hasn't come up high enough yet to move that white ball. But after this one, he'll have the red on the same side of the table as the white. He can hit it a bit firmer and get it up to the side pocket, or he can just leave it a little lower. So he's gone firmer, side pocket. Doesn't want it to drop in this case. It drops. Now that's a bit stiff, but he does have a cannon from the green spot
65.
with some right-hand side applied.
Yes, the cannon shouldn't present any difficulty here. The difficulty is pacing the red around the table, back into a corner.
Well, you make it sound easy. It's not an easy cannon. It's he's got to play it with big side.
I think he's looking at either a run through here or cushion first cannon. This is quite an aggressive shot to play a cushion first cannon here. He's trying it.
No, I don't
Just a fraction thin and probably too fast.
I don't think I'd put
good
either
shot.
of these players in the purely creative camp. I'd put them in the precision billiards camp, both of them. I mean, that's not to say that they aren't creative and don't make those shots, but they both tend to prefer more reliable standard shots played well than inventing things.
Having said that, we've seen Steve drive 2 or 3 quite
Mad
creative
ones,
things.
yeah, that's right.
Or as they're known elsewhere, mad goes.
Yeah.
In the last little while.
Maybe that's the luxury of being 350 in front. Now push the white up and down the table towards the red. He has to rescue that red soon. You can't score just off the other ball. So he's thinking 1 cushion cannon here. Safer, he thinks, to do it in 2 steps. I mean, here's a good example of what we're talking about. Manici would have played off that red all day long. Gilchrist would have played.
If he hadn't caught that jaw, that was travelling at quite a nice pace for the yellow to come just out of ball, quite close to the red.
Yeah.
Again, this cannon, is pretty straightforward, but position is entirely problematical. Oh, he's gone around the back. Well, as you can see from where the red finished, unless he got a lucky break and left it in off the yellow.
So far,
The yellow, he was out of business. Can't see any shot here. I can actually screw cannon like that. Just overcooked.
I think you mean pot oppo.
Indeed.
So far you've described 3 cushion cannons with side as being elementary. Wrong. Tough school, Dave. Tough school.
Good shot by Steve there. Aggressive shot here is to pump this in.
He's played it like a break so that if he
Yeah, that's a
misses,
good
he
shot.
smothers.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
Yeah, that is a good shot. That seems to be the preferred response now to the break-off shot, is that what is there here? Elementary one cushion cannon with
No.
check side?
No. No, Peter. Well, he has left him in off the red,
Sure.
but again, you know, he's put the white stone dead, essentially.
The yellow.
Yellow, the object ball. Yeah.
Oh, had to force
He
that. I
did,
didn't think he had to force it. Hard to say with these angles.
Here we go with another one of my elementary one cushion
They're
cannons.
unmissable.
Well, this one is unmissable. You can't go around the back here, so.
Yes, full ball. Mr. Cosgrove is in the gloves, Grant, yes. Paul Cosgrove is doubling as referee and tournament director. One of the hardest working and nicest guys in the game. Oh. Oh, and just lands perfect for Steve.
Yes, he's certainly had his work cut out,
Yeah.
Paul, this week. President of the VBSA, tournament director. He's now here refereeing the final. And
Yep.
just done a tremendous job in getting these three tournaments up
Yep.
and running.
And I've never been at a tournament where Paul's been in charge that hasn't run smoothly and had a good atmosphere as well.
Just a little line up here. A soft shot by Steve off the cushion. You can pop the red here, but I think he's going to have a look at the
Myth, isn't it, here in Melbourne?
Well, we do a bit. Whether he plays it off the white or off the red, he's very, very good at pacing that object ball, the first object ball back.
Yes.
Where he
Oh, I'm
wants it to go.
surprised he didn't trap it in the jaws and play the cannon there, but he doesn't want to move it further away from the spot, I guess. It's really outside the box. He's going to have to move that wide anyway.
That's a good shot. Heavy stun.
That is a great shot.
Full ball contact on the red.
Doesn't want the cover. Doesn't want the cover.
I don't think it would have mattered if he could have snuck around the back of that, unless there were.
Yeah.
5-hour final. Steve missed it, leading by 350 or so, and he's just made a mess of that. Left himself he's played that beautifully. Soft screw in and off the red.
I love the automatic focus on this camera when Paul Cosgrove's head gets in the way. It automatically focuses on every follicle on his head, but the balls go fuzzy.
Strangely, Peter, the camera doesn't do that when you and I are refereeing.
No, well, it can't focus on my head. There's too much reflection.
Yeah, nice soft screw there. Just you know, keeping the white nearby and getting a good contact on the red.
See, there are so many. This is one of the many, many, many shots that in New South Wales on our understretched cloths, we simply don't have the opportunity to play that shot, and so it's like speaking another language when we come down here to Melbourne, and that shot's available. Of course, it's a critical part of billiards, and we should all be playing. Here's another one.
So you're saying, Peter, you have to hit them harder up there?
Well, you've got to hit them harder to start with, and in doing so, you tend to lose control of the balls. It's hard to play that tiny soft screw and keep the balls together. If we're playing screw, we're moving the ball a long way, the object ball.
Yeah, it's definitely true that we're blessed down here in
You are,
Victoria
you
with having Alcock's, Australia's oldest firm,
You
doing the
are
tables and doing them to such a high standard. Of course, the sponsorship from CLNS, which provides new cloths for the major tournaments each year, is another huge factor in the excellent conditions that we enjoy here. So the combination of new cloths and expert table fitting means that we've got a.
Can I
We're
suggest
very lucky.
it's mainly the latter? We can buy the same cloth. There's that nice clear view of Paul's head again. We can buy the same cloths that you can buy, and we can buy the same cushions, but we are missing the expertise on table fitting. We've got some enthusiastic amateurs, but they've kind of got into it not through the trade route. And they've done it out of necessity that we haven't had good table fitters. We did have one good one. Dennis from Hiron and Smith some years ago was first rate, Dennis Grant, and but he retired some years ago. Look at the side he had on that ball and how wide an angle that threw. Now that's what you can do on these well stretched, well fitted cloths.
So, Peter, earlier in this session, Peter posed a quiz question for all of you, quite an interesting one, which is to name a player who has never lost a match in the Australian National Billiards Championship. Of course, it only applies to people who've played in the Australian National. And so far I've come up with 3.
There we go. We'll have a word to him during the break, and maybe put some marks on the floor, tape on the floor to remind him.
He doesn't need that. He just needs to think a bit more about it.
Well, when we set it up at RACV, we put crosses on the floor.
We did,
on
indeed.
the camera tables, and the refs said to me later they could feel the tape on the floor.
On their feet, yes,
under
okay.
their feet, and it reminded them not to stand there. So it's a good idea.
It is a good idea, but different scenario because we had
It's basically the direction.
we had 25 matches on that table, on the TV table, so and 25 different referees probably, but here there's only one more session to go, so it's just a question of Paul.
First day, where Neville Moore very helpfully spoke to all the referees about camera angles, and we came up with the kind of stage direction trick of putting a cross on the floor.
So a nice 72 break here by Steve, getting his lead back out over 400 points again.
Yeah.
He's dominated this session really. He's just looking at playing something. It's another creative shot. Looks like he's cannoning off the white here. Left hand side to take it towards the red. Just wants to get a nice finish contact on the red here. Let's see how. Yeah, that hasn't worked out how he would like.
I don't understand what that shot was even trying to do. White always was going to the cushion and red was heading up the wrong direction.
He put all his eggs in the good contact on the red basket, and.
But surely you'd play red to white in that.
I think it might have been a bit wide. I think that may have been a bit wide. Was the reason he went the way he did.
Oh, now he's just playing for. Suggestion here from our baby Vic 12, Jay Belfield. I don't know a Jay Belfield. Okay. Oh, hang on. In the early days, I think he won the second and third running in the early 1900s. No. Could be Jay Belfield. I mean, there may be more than one. I definitely know of one, but there may be more.
I think we're missing a couple at the bottom here.
Oh, it should be.
Goes back.
We should start with Rumblers. Oh yeah. 1907 we start. 1906, 1907. Yeah. Now here's an interesting observation. You look at the breaks, the top breaks. Now this tournament, I think we're only he says, 200 and something so far. Plenty. Now before that time, I was saying earlier how much standards have improved. In the first running, but the standard is much higher than it's ever been.
Just had a 30-second outage. Probably very important. The internet just went down. Back up.
Okay, I'm told the internet went down while I was making an observation. The observation was about how standards have improved in billiards in recent times, despite fewer people playing it. There are fewer people playing it, but in fact, the standards are higher than ever. David Pitt would have had the high break for perhaps the first 30, 40 years of this tournament, and it would have regularly said David Pitt as a winner, because there wasn't a 200 break made in the first 30 years of the tournament. In fact, many years there wasn't a 100 break made. In the last 30 years, there's been nothing but 200s or better, and 500s, 400s, 736, 809, both by Matt Bolton. So standards are much, much, much higher than they've ever been, despite the fact that the number of players is reduced. I guess what you can say is that those that are playing very, very well.
So we've had a good suggestion here on our quiz from RBabyVic12, whoever you are, Jay Belfield, which is a very good suggestion. Jay Belfield of New South Wales won the 1907 and 1908 Australian Championships. In those days, the championship was conducted between only two states, Victoria and New South Wales, essentially as a challenge between the champions of those two states, and it rotated back and forth between Sydney and Melbourne. It wasn't until around about 1913 that Queensland joined in, and then a little later on South Australia. So looking at the old records here, Jay Belfield, who won in 1907 and 1908, we know he didn't lose early in the final because there was only a final. They typically played 2,000 or 3,000 points up, and he's got that a bit thin. In fact, he's got it very thin. So yeah, Jay Belfield is a good candidate to have never lost a match in the Australian Championship. Some interesting innovations came when they added more.
Lovely shot, Michael.
More as more states joined into the Australian Championship. And one of the most interesting, which I only discovered this week while I was doing a little bit of research on that A.H. Herndon and the PJVQ that we talked about earlier, I discovered that this commentary caper that Peter and I are doing here now is not as new as perhaps we might have thought. In fact, I discovered that in 1926, the commentary was provided on the Australian National Billiards Championship by radio station 4QG in Brisbane.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that fascinating?
That is fascinating.
Yeah, so there were two, they managed to get one or two people like us to sit here and call the billiards on the radio, which sounds absolutely...
Great shot, Michael.
Sounds absolutely extraordinary.
Well, it's mind-numbing, isn't it?
Well,
even watching billiards. I mean, I love billiards, but let's be realistic here. It's tough to watch this because you don't know exactly what the players are doing. I mean, you have to be a genuine aficionado, and I must say that during the finals of the international, we had 3 lovely gentlemen, billiards aficionados, sitting in the room, freezing their tails off while they could have been watching the live feed up at the club. But including Mark Dunn, the VBSA scorer. So I wrongly described them as old blokes. They're in fact billiards aficionados.
Right, so yeah, I was just thinking about the radio commentary on billiards. Of course, nobody bats an eyelid at the idea of radio commentary on cricket, which is an equally arcane game as billiards.
Absolutely.
And,
in fact, it'd be worse. You've got to strike all the field positions. But yeah, can you imagine this? I wonder if they had the simulated, you know, they used to do the pencil on the block of wood to simulate the cricket bat. I wonder what the cue sound was. They may have had a billiard ball and the cue tip in there.
Well, those synthetic tests, as they were called, were a little bit different because they were actually calling the tests in England off cables that they received in the studio cables in Melbourne. So telegram would come through describing each shot, and they would then, with a pencil and a block of wood, as Peter's described, to tap to simulate the sound of the game, and then call the shot. All they had really, they knew who the bowler and the batsman were, and there must have been some code to say where the balls went, where the ball went.
Hampered queuing. Oh no, he's all right. He can get through there.
Yeah, extraordinary times, but just innovative times. You know, you worked with what you had.
Exactly.
We're working what we've got here, which is absolutely fantastic.
In 100 years' time, we'll be thought beaming this direct into your brains.
In 100 years' time, we'll probably have mini drones, hovering over the table over each ball.
Will there be a camera inside each ball?
Inside it, yeah, exactly.
We'll be looking back at the cueist.
Radio station 4QG was the first radio station.
That red's gone ugly. It's not easy from here.
Not at all. Yeah, run through cannon with strong right hand side. A real forte of Michael's, this type of shot, but it's
run through and off.
Run through and off. Did I say cannon?
You did.
I don't even know. I hit it 2-4. Yeah. Things are just not going right for Michael here.
Well, he's only a fraction off, but you only have to be a fraction off. Yep. This is a game. They talk about golf being a game of inches. This is a game of fractions on a millimetre.
Millimetres, yeah. Yep. And where his white finished there is ideal for Steve.
It's delicious, isn't it? Look at it. It's just sitting there waiting to be plucked.
So in the real infancy of radio, it only started in the 20s in Australia, 1925 in Queensland, 4QG, set up by the Queensland government. 4QG, the call sign is for Queensland government, just in case you didn't get it. That's worked out okay.
Steve's just showing off now, playing a little screw cannon when he had an obvious red loser. What an extraordinary player Steve Mifsud is.
I actually think it's a weakness in his game doing that sort of thing, Peter, because he can do that here and he can do that, against lots and lots of players, but you can't do those things against the world-class players because they don't work.
Yeah.
So he's taking shortcuts, to get the balls into position quickly, but those shortcuts that he takes aren't always reliable, and that's what can get him into trouble against the Boltons and the other, world-class players that he comes up against.
And he's got to fancy this red pot, doesn't he? I mean, for God's sake, he's Steve Mifsud.
I don't think the pot presents any difficulties at all, Peter, but his ball's going to be going towards the side cushion, so it's just
a question as a stun. The punch. Oh no.
Didn't get into it.
This this going to come nicely for Michael or be a cover?
Oh, it's a cover. Let me just see
Gee,
from
look at that very fine combing
Mm.
on Paul's head. He's really put in a little extra effort this morning on the back of the do, knowing that he'd be on camera. Okay, we've got another suggestion of somebody who's never lost a match in the Australian Nationals, Rod Nelson.
Don't think so.
Don't think so. Very fine play. Made the semi-finals this year. Is that his best result?
I think
Dave?
that's his first semi-final in an Australian. Yes, he's been.
He's there or
two-time-
thereabouts, isn't he?
I think he's won 2 Victorian championships, and he's
Yep.
certainly been a consistent performer at
Perennial
at a high level.
quarterfinalist.
Quarterfinalist.
Perennial
and so forth. But I
quarterfinalist.
think this year's semi-final is his best effort in the Australian.
Well, played very well, as did Robbie Chilcott. I mean, we players from New South Wales come down here and you just seem to drag guys out of the woodwork that we see once a year, and they're just all geniuses. Your John Shanks and your Robbies and your Rod Nelsons and
Simon Skerries and other.
Skerries and
Mm.
you know, you've got so many very, very good players down here. Years of running a good association, that's what it is. Now, question for you. Can we go back to the New South Wales versus Victoria format and exclude Matt Bolton and Neil Bolton and Ben Judge and Frank Humphreys and those guys? Because they're starting to annoy us.
They're starting to annoy us, Peter. They've been annoying us for some considerable time.
That's a quote from Jimmy White. Do you
Right.
remember that?
No.
He just lost
Mhm.
his 6th World Championship final
Right.
to Stephen Hendry.
Yes.
4 of them to Stephen
Yes.
Hendry alone. They
Mhm.
said, "Well, Jimmy, what can we say? 6th final you've lost 4 times to Stephen Hendry." And Jimmy said, "Yeah, he's starting to annoy me." One of the great understatements. Oh, that could have been good, and it wasn't.
He overhit it.
Yeah, he did, but that
could
little
have got a
collision
kiss.
at the end
Yeah.
there could have fixed the problem.
Mm.
So run through in off here. Very elegant little shot. Nice control from Mike.
Oh, so Rod Nelson is Baby Vic too. Thanks, Rod. And he's outing himself on with his online persona, and yeah, very.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Very,
thought
very good suggestion. Yeah. So anyway, Rod, we gave you a wrap up there.
we did. We did. He'd love a Victoria versus New South Wales match. Yeah, of course he would. You've seen us play.
Well, Todd, it could be that Neil Croft is watching this. I don't think so, because I invited him down here to come into the commentary booth, but Neil told me he had a couple of things on today and couldn't make it.
Yes.
Great player from previous year. Neil, twice runner-up in the Australian Championship.
Yes. Now, having said that,
Made
we've
a 300 break in a World Championship.
we do have a few players in New South Wales. Mike's just figuring out how little of the red he can take with screw and running side.
He played it well.
He did play it well.
Mm.
We do have a few players in New South Wales who never travel really outside of the state, but some better billiards players than the regulars that travel down here. So Vic Cravino, Sacco, Ron Tulloch, and others. Regular semi-finals. Even Roger Fairbrother is playing very good billiards these days, but doesn't play in this event. So yeah, we're perhaps a bit more viable in New South Wales than we are here, but And playing on our tables with big buckets where you can't trap the ball in the jaws, it just falls in, and you've got to beat the hell out of it to get any screw back or side. It's a very different game.
So 12 minutes to go in this session. Michael's just clawed the lead back under 400. But, he really need to finish this session well and start the next session well if he's going to make some inroads into this big lead that Steve's got.
Yeah.
So Peter, with your quiz, when are we going to...
Just wriggles in.
When
Well,
when are we going to throw in some... When am I allowed to throw some candidates into the ring?
Oh, only at the very end, David.
Well, the end of the whole shooting match?
The
or
end of the
this
whole...
session?
no, not the end of
I
the
don't think-
session.
I don't think I can wait that long.
We'll take it
In
all.
fact,
I know you can't.
In fact, I have to leave. I have to leave early today, so
Well, that's
we
all right.
may not get there.
Somebody else will read out your suggestions.
No, but I don't want to just read them out. I want to
I
expound
know
on
you
them.
are. Oh, God. I know you do. I know you're desperate, absolutely desperate
Well,
to expound on them.
well, just give me one. Let me have one. Come on.
All right, you can have one before the end of the session.
Thank you. Very kind.
It's like doling out lollies. Oh, that's a good shot, Mickey.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, perfect drop cannon. So my candidate for the unbeaten
So we want,
player in
David,
the
we want
Australian
candidate
Billiards
and
Champion.
evidence. Candidate and evidence. Because I have solid evidence for mine.
Well, I've got very solid. We have irrefutable evidence of yours right here. And my candidate is Edward E. Darcy. His nickname was Darcy Eccles. Darcy Eccles was the 1924 Australian Billiards champion and also the 1924 Victorian Billiards champion. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, that may have been the only Victorian championship he won, in which case it was the only Australian championship that he got to play in. Quite an interesting character, Darcy Eccles. He went on to become one of Australia's biggest punters in the 1930s.
Really?
And in fact, he owned the 1937 Melbourne Cup winner, the Trump, which was the first,
I remember reading about
only
this.
the second horse to complete the Caulfield Melbourne Cup double.
But then he had an unfortunate end, didn't he?
He did have a bit of an unfortunate end. So in 1937, he was what would in later times be called a Leviathan punter, and his horse, the Trump, won 4 Group 1s, including the what are now Group 1s, including the Caulfield and Melbourne Cup. And
No, he
very
needed,
wide.
side on that.
Well, he forced it, but he didn't force
He
it. It was
did.
pretty wide. Yeah, pretty wide. But, the prize money for those events at that time was something in the order of 20 or 30,000 pounds.
Which was
Massive. Good money.
Yeah,
in those
massive
days. But he took something like 60 or 70,000 pounds out of the ring in bets on his
Wow.
horse in those races. So he's won in today's money, millions of dollars.
millions.
In prize money and in backing his horse. But sadly, I'm told by somebody who knew him, my good mate Dixie Trumbull, whose mother was good friends with Darcy Eccles' wife Winnie, that he gave it all back to the bookies and died more or less broke.
Who would have thought? What a surprise.
So quite an interesting story. I think as far as my research shows, he's the only player to
Is
have
this-
won the Australian Championship
isn't this too
and
wide
own a
for the
Melbourne
camera?
Cup winner.
Okay.
I did go through.
think that's
I did go through the
I think
list.
that's a Venn diagram with an intersection of one.
And Yeah, he was a very good player. Made a 200 break in the Victorian Championship in the days when 200 breaks were pretty rare. So
Well, perhaps we should toss that out to the community, billiards playing community. How many of you have owned a Melbourne Cup winner?
yeah.
Right. Okay. So not too many.
Yeah.
I won't wait for the answers on that.
The only fly in the Darcy Eccles ointment it would be that he may have won another Victorian Championship in about 1925, in which case then he would have played in the Australian and lost. So I'm not 100% certain. I'll have to look up the Victorian records to see if that's the case.
If this tournament was a challenge series, as you're suggesting, Victoria versus New South Wales, then let's exclude those guys because many of them could have, in fact, just turned up once and won. I'm looking at if there was only one match, that's not a particularly meritorious thing to have won one match and say I'm undefeated in the championship. I mean, guys that played round robins, guys that played through the knockout section, that's a different kettle of fish.
You've just knocked out one of my other candidates.
Of course I have.
Well, so I'm now going to blurt because...
do it anyway.
So my other candidate...
Because I know I won't be able to stop you.
No. My other candidate is, just as we reach the end of this session, 23 seconds to go, Steve has played quite an extraordinary screw cannon, which just got a kiss with the yellow coming back. And he's left Michael in a perfect top of the table with 10 seconds to go. So lovely leave for Michael, and how nice to be able to come back to the table at perfect top of the table position.
Yes.
So I've misread that. I've misread the clock. There's actually 6 minutes to go.
Yep. Which gives you time to expound your next guy.
Yeah. So my next candidate is Max Williams, a 1971 Australian
Okay. Well, he was playing
champion.
in the open era, wasn't he? So that's fair.
What do you mean
enough.
by the open era?
But, when it wasn't simply a one-on-one challenge.
Oh no,
between New
it's
South
all
Wales
the
and
states were
Victoria.
able to compete by then. Yes. So he beat Bruce Stevens of Victoria in 1971, and as far as I'm aware, that's the only time he played in the Australian Championship. Great snooker player, won 8 national titles. Max Williams, and
Don't drop, Mike. Oh dear me.
partisan commentary here from Peter Tankard from New South Wales, who's a mate of Michael Pearson's, of
Oh,
course.
I'm a mate of Steve's as well, but
Yeah, he
you want to
just-
see good
Of
billiards.
course, you want to see good
billiards.
billiards, and he's gone from chocolates to boiled lollies there with that leg just dropping in. Now
That's a good shot to bounce
Yeah.
directly off the wide, as long as he's got a bit too hard. Salvageable.
Shouldn't matter. The stunning off or screw. Yeah, good recovery.
Now, I got a coaching tip on that particular shot from Martin Goodwill, who's the coach's coach. And he said that I was playing it too much as a stun and that the ball slipped into the pocket so much easier, thinner with screw and running side. And I've been playing it with much more success Martin's way ever since.
It's interesting you should say that, Peter, because I would have thought most people would
dearie me.
go in the opposite direction. That there should be more stunning. Oh, a simple putt in the middle, missed by Michael there. Great
That's
shame.
not good. Well, sorry, what are you saying? That the stun is easier?
I think the people who tend to screw it thin with side should do more stunning, and the
Well,
people,
maybe.
the people who
You say
the people who stun it should play it with screw and side. So,
maybe.
Yeah. It just all depends on the
It
angle
depends
and
on the
how
shot,
open.
of
Depends
course.
on how open the pocket is, really.
Yeah.
And also, you can choose where you want to send the red. Steve failed to screw that at all. Maybe the conditions are a bit heavy out there because we've seen a couple of screw shots. Does not work. This is skinny.
It is skinny, so Michael prefers to load these up with check. If he needs to come off the cushion with check, he'll do it that way. But it'll be check side galore.
Just got it
Didn't
direct.
need it.
We're a little
Yep.
bit thin with strong check. Looks like the line up from here.
It does.
The fact that he's not down on the shot
Yeah.
would seem to indicate that maybe he can pot the red. Yeah, no, sure.
Now, the other thing that's interesting about playing these cloths is that you because the cloth is stretched and the nap is laying so flat, there's not as much movement on the nap, either way, going with it or against it, as we're used to playing. So it makes the shots more, I don't know what the right word is, pure in some way, that you don't have to make that allowance for side on the cloth as you would in, say, New South Wales. Oh, unlucky. I mean, that was a beautiful run through in
It
off.
was. But in running through it, he's just caught the wider fraction full and put it in. So,
Yeah.
that's a good shot. No, it's not, because he's left it out of balk. If he got
Well, hitting it harder might have brought that white into a loser position. So,
had to get the red into balk though.
yes.
Just looking here at what he's going to do, I suspect he'll play a cannon off 1 or 2 cushions.
Two.
Like that. Yep. Hasn't exactly left himself a lot.
I wonder what Causey would do here. Something. So if you're just joined us online, tell us where you're from and what you're thinking about the match so far, and if there's anything that you'd like to know that we failed to tell you. Because you're in luck, David knows everything.
Peter, that is not true. I know a few things here and there, but most of it is just stuff that I've looked up in the course of my...
Well, but you've recalled it as well, you know, I mean...
I do have a good memory.
Yes, fair, yeah, you do.
Yes, it's amazing the things I've come up with. I was looking for something completely different when that bit about the radio commentary came up, which I just thought was hilarious. Having a look around on Trove, actually trying to find out A.H. Herndon's first name. Of course, in those days they only they mostly just used their people's initials. You know, A.H. Herndon beat G.C. Sutherland of Victoria in that 1929 Australian Championship.
I'm sure there were many of us probably trying to look up A.H. Herndon's first name, you know.
2000 to 1602. It might be a bit of a clue. George Taylor told me that Bill Herndon was Alcock's agent in South Australia for a long time. So, it may be that there's, family members over there. It may even be possible that there's a, Herndon family member watching this broadcast.
Now, for the eagle-eyed, you're seeing both Mifsud brothers queuing up at the same time. That's James out on the star practice table out the back.
Very good forcing it off there from Steve, and Bill must be about to go off at any minute. He's in play with 726 and a handful to go. Michael Pearson 366, so very handy lead of 370 odd to Steve at this halfway mark of the final.
And almost exactly double, and that's the more concerning number, is not the gap, but the fact that Steve is scoring at roughly twice the rate of Michael. This often happens in billiards. I mean, Steve isn't twice the player that Michael is, but because of the scoring method, and that is that one player will tend to dominate. It's only a percentage or two in the difference in the way they're playing or queuing, but that 1% will translate into a massive score difference.
Exactly double the difference at the moment.
Yes. Use the jaw of the pocket there to throw the red out to create an angle.
A couple of ways to go here. One is to just push the red into the corner, and the other is to bounce it up to bring it back towards the other two. And that's the third way to play it,
Yeah,
to try and spread it
No.
across to the other side.
obviously red over the left corner pocket, make the cannon. It's a big fat white ball sitting just off the rail. Couldn't get behind it, so it was as
Yeah.
big as a ball can be.
You're playing nicely, Steve.
Yes.
Scored pretty consistently in this session. I think only one century. It was a big one, 247 or so. Oh, how lucky was that?
Yes,
How
thank you so
lucky
much.
was that? That just the white
And-
passing through the other two balls.
Yep,
There, anything.
And a good leave.
Yeah, anything could have happened there.
Thank you, Roger. We're doing our best. We are humble amateurs that come in here. I was working this morning, running a little late, but we just call it as we see it. And
Okay.
time.
And time. So at the halfway mark of the 2022 Australian National Billiards Championship, Steve Mifsud 749 with a 247 break, leads Michael Pearson 366. The second and final session of this championship starts at 2:30 p.m. It's a 2.5-hour session taking us through to 5 p.m. Thank you to my fellow commentator Peter Tankard and to our producer
Thank you,
Dan Lynch, David Pitt signing off for CueballTV.